A seller in Argyle listed their home at just over $1 million. 2 days later, they had an offer for 1.2 million, 120,000 more than they'd even asked for. Buyers competed hard to get that. Now, a few miles away in Flower Mound, another seller listed at a similar price. They waited and they waited. Nearly 7 months later, they accepted an offer nearly $100,000 less than asking, with a half a year of carrying costs on top of that. So you've got similar price, neighboring suburbs, $200,000 swing in outcome between the two.
So what made the difference? That's exactly what we're getting into today. Because right now in DFW, the county you're in and the city within it can mean a completely different outcome.
Here's where DFW stands right now. The market hasn't crashed, it has split. Buyers are pumping the brakes across the board, but the home in the right location is still commanding top dollar. Which side of that split that you're on right now comes down to your county, your city, and your price point. So let's get into the data.
Let's start with supply. How many homes are actually for sale right now? This is the foundation everything else builds on. More homes means more choices for buyers and more competition for sellers. And right now across DFW, the answer is not as simple as it looks.
There are roughly 26,000 homes on the market across all four counties. And yes, that's more than we've seen in a while, which sounds like good news if you're buying, but it's not spread evenly. And that's where it gets interesting. Tarrant County actually has fewer homes for sale than a year ago. If you're buying there, you have less to choose from. If you're selling there, you have less competition. And Collin County is the opposite. Inventory is growing, more homes are sitting, and sellers there are starting to feel it. Denton and Dallas are both seeing more homes come on, which means buyers in those areas have more options than they did a year ago. And we're going to show you whether sellers are adjusting their process to match that reality. Here's why this matters beyond just the number of homes. Where inventory is tighter, homes tend to move faster and sellers tend to get closer to what they're asking. Where it's growing, buyers have more room to negotiate. This is actually where the split we mentioned earlier in the video starts, right here in these inventory numbers. And you're going to see it show up in every single metric we look at from here.
So that's the supply side. How many homes are out there? But are buyers actually showing up for them? Days on market tells us how long a home sits before someone makes an offer. And right now, that answer is very different depending on which county you're in.
Here's what the data is showing us. In most of DFW, homes are sitting longer than they were a year ago before getting an offer. Collin County is seeing the biggest shift. Homes there are taking about 2 months on average to go under contract. That's not a crisis, but it is a change from what sellers there got used to. Tarrant here is the outlier. Homes there are actually selling faster than last year. If you're a seller in Tarrant County right now, buyers are still moving with urgency. If you're a seller in Collin and your home has been sitting for a month or more, that's not necessarily unusual, but it is a signal worth paying attention to. The homes sitting the longest right now are priced for a market that no longer exists. And if you're a buyer, the well-priced move-in ready homes are still going fast. But the ones that have been sitting 60, 90 days, those sellers are having a very different conversation today than they were on day one.
Now let's look at the data that tells us what buyers are actually doing right now. Not last month, not 45 days ago, right now.
Pending sales are homes that are under contract. A buyer and a seller have a deal. It just hasn't closed yet. This is the most honest picture we have of what's actually happening in the market at this moment. Not what happened 6 weeks ago when something closed. What's happening right now. And right now, every single county has dropped. Not one went up. Denton and Collin both were down 14%. Tarrant's down nearly 13%, and Dallas is down 24%. That means nearly 1 in 4 fewer buyers going under contract compared to this time last year. Let that land for just a second.
Now, this does not mean the DFW market is falling apart. What it means is that the buyers are being very careful. Rates jumped back up in April after hitting their lowest point in over 2 years just a couple months ago. Add in the uncertainty around what's happening with Iran, a lot of buyers who are ready to move simply hit pause. Some are watching to see where rates land. Some are waiting to see if prices come back down further. The fear right now isn't missing out, it's overpaying. And that hesitation is showing up clearly in all the numbers.
Now, homes are still closing, but those deals were made weeks ago before rates jumped back up and before the uncertainty set in. What we're watching in the pending numbers is what happens next. What we do know is that the buyers who are still active right now are doing their homework. They know what else is out there. They know how long things have been sitting. Pricing to where the market actually is, not where you wish it was, is the difference between being under contract in a week and sitting for months.
So that's where buyer activity stands right now. But when a home does sell, how close are sellers actually getting to their asking price? Because the gap between asking price and sold price is one of the most telling numbers in this data set.
So, are sellers getting what they're asking for? The short answer is mostly, but less than before. And it depends on where you are. Tarrant County sellers are the closest to asking price right now, and that number hasn't budged from last year. That tells you buyers there don't have much room to push back. In Denton and Dallas, sellers are getting a little less than asking, and in Collin, sellers are seeing the biggest gap. Here's what that actually means in dollars. In Collin County, the average seller is netting about $24,000 less than what they listed at. In Denton County, that gap is around 20,000.
If you're a buyer, that gap is your starting point for the conversation. If you're a seller, that gap is almost always a result of one thing: coming on the market at the wrong price. The homes that are priced right from day one are closing much closer to asking, sometimes at or above. The ones that aren't are the ones creating that average. So that's what the sellers are getting relative to their asking price. But what are homes actually selling for right now? Let's look at where prices actually landed.
Across DFW, every county is down from last year except one. Collin County is down 3.6% from last year. Denton is down 6.9%, which in real dollars is about $32,000 less than a year ago. Dallas came down nearly 5%. And then there's Tarrant, the only county in DFW where the median price actually went up. Now, just 0.1%, it's a small move, but in a market where every other county is declining, holding value is its own kind of story. Here's the bigger picture though. We're talking about single digit declines, 3, 5, 7%. That's not a crash. That's a market that ran hard for a few years and is now finding its footing. Prices haven't fallen off a cliff, they've softened. And for buyers who were priced out 2 or 3 years ago, that's a different conversation than it was in 2022. For sellers, the equity you built is still largely intact. This isn't 2008. DFW is a market that's recalibrating, not collapsing.
So prices have continued to flatten across most of DFW, but the question we hear more than anything right now is, what about rates? A lot of people have been waiting on the sidelines because of rates. So let's look at where they actually stand.
The 30-year fixed rate closed at 6.3% at the end of last month. A year ago, it was at 6.76%. On a $750,000 loan, that's roughly $225 less per month than buyers were paying this time last year. But here's what the chart is really showing. Rates actually touched 5.96% back in February, the lowest we'd seen in over 2 years. Then economic uncertainty pushed them back up to 6.44% in mid April before settling back down at that 6.3% at the end of the month. The buyers who walked in February got the best rate since 2022. For everyone still waiting for rates to drop further, that window already opened once this year and it closed fast. Whether it opens again is the question that nobody can answer right now.
In just a minute, we're going to dive into exactly how Flower Mound, Argyle, and Northlake are landing within all of this DFW data, and the difference might surprise you. But first, let's break down where each county actually stands right now.
Tarrant is the strongest market in DFW right now. If you're buying here, come prepared. If you're selling here, you're in the best position of any county. Collin has the most room for buyers to negotiate right now, more than anywhere else in the metroplex. But sellers need to be pricing for today, not last year. Denton is the most mixed of the four. Closings are up, but buyers are pulling back. Prices are down nearly 7%, but not every neighborhood is moving the same direction. This is the county where doing your homework on the specific area matters most right now. And Dallas, if it's on your list as a buyer, might be the most leverage you've had there in years.
Now, let's drill down because the county data tells you a broad story. But if you're in one of these suburbs right now trying to decide whether to sell, or you've been eyeing Flower Mound, Argyle, or Northlake trying to figure out where to buy, the county numbers only get you so far. Here's what's actually happening on the ground in all three.
Flower Mound median price is down 5.5% from last year, but that headline doesn't tell you the whole story. The $702 million range was competitive. Multiple homes sold over asking in under a week. The homes that struggled were priced above where buyers' math worked. Price it right in Flower Mound and buyers still show up. Price it for last year and you end up waiting 7 months like the seller we talked about earlier in the video.
So in Flower Mound, it really does come down to price points. The right price, and the buyers are ready. The wrong price, and they walk right past it. Now, in Argyle is the one that's been turning heads because it's doing something most Denton County isn't.
Argyle median price is actually up 1.8% year over year, while Denton County fell overall 7%. Argyle held and actually grew. That 450 to $700,000 range had multiple homes sell over asking in 2 to 7 days. That's where buyers are competing right now. Now, above the 1.5 million, the conversation is different. Longer days, more room to negotiate. Where you're priced in Argyle matters just as much as the city itself. Argyle in that mid range has been one of the more competitive markets in all of DFW right now. And then there's Northlake, which at first glance looks concerning, but the full picture is actually more encouraging than the headlines suggest.
Northlake, months of supply is above 6, which technically puts it in a buyer's market territory. But here's what else happened. Closed sales jumped over 30% and homes are selling faster than they were a year ago. That doesn't happen in a market that's falling apart. What it tells you is that the price correction in Northlake is doing what price corrections are supposed to do, bringing buyers back to the table. If you had your eye on Northlake, you're not the only one who's noticed.
So here's what this data is actually telling you. If you're thinking about selling, the homes winning right now are priced to be the best option in their price range. Buyers today are doing their homework. They're walking through homes and weighing every detail, the updates, the finishes, the condition, against everything else available in that price range. The homes that stand out as the clear best choice are still getting multiple offers. The ones that don't are sitting while buyers just move on to something that does.
If you're thinking about buying, there's more opportunity in this market than the headline suggests. Prices have come down or flattened. Inventory has come up in most counties, and sellers who have been sitting are negotiating. The buyers winning right now are the ones who know exactly what they want and are ready to move when the right home shows up. Watch our next video if you want to know how to successfully buy the right home in the DFW market, because buying today is different than it was a few years ago.